A year ago this month, Red for Ed kicked into gear, culminating in a historic 6-day teacher strike last April. Teachers won proposed 20% raises over 3 years from the governor and legislature, but Red for Ed leaders have made clear another strike this year is still a possibility. Meantime, some state lawmakers and parents are pushing back on Red for Ed's motives and the perceived behavior of teachers who went on strike. Joining us this morning, two of the key players, Republican State Representative Townsend of Mesa, who's become a voice for parents questioning Red for Ed and is moving a bill many teachers view as retaliation for the strike. And Joe Thomas, president of the Arizona Education Association, one of the leaders of the larger Red for Ed movement. Welcome back to Square Off. I said at the start you're both on opposite sides, so let's start this way. Can you tell us one thing you think you both agree on? Kelly Townsend.
I'm very glad you asked. We've talked about this before. I invited Joe to come to my office and we sat down and we talked about some of the issues, and one of the most important issues is when we appropriate funding to the schools, it needs to get to the intended target, right? It needs to get to the classroom, to the teachers. And oftentimes when it goes through the district process, it gets diverted and it goes to other needs, other places. So I'm looking for ways that we can ensure that the money gets actually to the classroom, to the teachers.
Joe Thomas, do you agree with that agreement?
We have a teaching crisis in Arizona. We have about 7,500 classrooms every year that have vacancies, and we can fill 1 in 4 of those positions with a qualified, certified teacher. So we do need to have resources in the classroom. We also need to do a better job of educating everyone about all of the support needs our students have that are near the classroom. It's the counselors, it's the psychologists, it's the security guards. We have systemically underfunded our schools for well over a decade, and we have to pull ourselves out of that to give our kids the schools they deserve.
Okay, let's go to one area where I believe you disagree, and is Kelly Townsend, it is your bill regulating teacher behavior in the classroom. You call it an anti-indoctrination bill. Teachers say it's retaliation against Red for Ed. Here's some of the details. The bill would bar teachers from espousing political or religious belief on school time. Any comments they make must be germane to the subject in the classroom. There are $5,000 penalties for violations. As I always like to ask, you said this is a real problem, so what problem exactly are you solving?
Well, I'm glad you asked that as well, Bram, and I think a lot of parents are going to agree with me. There is a problem in the schools. Some teachers are great and they may not have seen it, but if you go to on Facebook, you go to Purple for Parents, we've asked the question, tell us what you are experiencing. There's lots of anecdotal information, but there's also hard evidence of things like genderbread curriculum being taught to the kids.
Sorry, what curriculum?
Genderbread. Genderbread in Flagstaff. It was a big scandal. The teacher got brought in and was talking about 100 different genders like glitter butch and things like the cyborg, and this was being taught to the children without the parents actually realizing it, because the permission slip that went home said nothing about it, just said it was anti-bullying. And so that's one example. There's another example where a teacher was talking about President Trump's immigration policies. Her student went home and typed up a counter argument and emailed it to her. That teacher, this is at Highland High School, got mad about it, read it in front of the class, ripped it up and threw it in the trash. You know, those are the types of things that wasn't part of the curriculum. And the Supreme Court has already decided you can't do these kinds of things. There's a Garcetti versus Caballos.
I want to go to Joe Thomas. Joe, is that happening in the classroom?
We're not seeing that there are any instances of this going on. Excuse me. What I think we need to really do here is we have a lot more educators that have become politically active, because they see that the only way that they can make a difference, it appears in Arizona, is to speak very loudly. And so we're ready to work with districts and educate our teachers on what the law does say. But a bill like this goes too far. It's going to silence a lot of teachers' voices. Teachers are rule followers, and what they're going to have is they're going to have a letter from the attorney of the district outlining what all this new rules are, and it's going to stifle speech inside the school.
Should parents have an expectation that teachers won't bring politics into the classroom?
I think that teachers should have an expectation that they're not going to be bringing politics into the classroom. This is not something that's going on at all.
And you've called this retaliation against teachers, this bill.
The bill comes out the year after Red for Ed. If these are issues that have been going on for years and years and years, why are we seeing it now? And really, Ram, we have a crisis in education that we need to be talking about, and these are shiny coin diversions that take us off what the real issues are, which is getting dollars into our classrooms.
Shiny objects.
Shiny objects. This is not new. I proposed this last year when we had the budget, and it's been a topic that's important to me. I've had conversations with people like Joe Grusick, who's very big into education funding. He can attest that I have been having this issue for some time and have been bringing it up. Now is a time to have that conversation, because we have children being enrolled into charter schools at such a high rate versus public. Parents like myself don't want to send our children to school so that they can come out believing that Karl Marx was misunderstood.
You think that's happening?
Absolutely.
You think our high school students are coming up believing that?
I have lots of examples. Yes, it is. And I think parents watching, some of them will agree. Mr. Thomas says it's not happening. It is happening, and it shouldn't.
I'm sorry, Representative.
Go ahead.
Bram, if this was happening, this would be all over the news. There would be investigations that would be going on. This is not what's going on in our classroom. Our kids are learning the exciting things that you and I learned, and Representative Townsend learned when we were in school. It's the Pythagorean theorem. It's the periodic table of elements. It's how to write Shakespearean sonnets. We have standards both for professional standards and for our content standards, and it fills up the day. There is nobody out there that has this systemic approach to indoctrinating students and anything beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic.
I'm going to have to pause there, but we will keep this conversation going.